Welcome to Bulletproof Dirtworks, Bulletproof X3 here. This is my wife Susan's car. Hit the like and subscribe button. Subscribe to this channel so I can keep making videos. A couple of notes. Nobody gave us free parts for this video. We don't get any freebies from the manufacturers. So you're getting a pretty realistic, unbiased review. I'll also say that these are parts we bought for our personal cars. So I did my homework and made what I thought was a good decision, and it was a good decision. In this case, we're going to highlight CT Raceworx and the parts that they make for bulletproofing your Can-Am X3. Here you don't see a lot of the bulletproofing on this car. I mean, you can see the A-arms and stuff that we did in another video. Put a link to that in the description. But there's a lot of stuff, what we'll call under the hood, that we've done to this car that you're going to see in this video. And at the end of this video, you understand, why do I need a shock tower brace? Why do I need a gusset kit? Why do I need new radius rods? Why do I need a toe link support kit? And so we're going to go through all that stuff in today's video, and we'll start by showing you the parts, kind of showing you what it looks like when they're not installed, how much stronger it looks, and explain where it is in the car, where the parts are put in the car to make them stronger. And I'll start by giving you guys a quick overview. Okay, so I had to include this as well. This is a, you're going to see this on the car in a later video. This is a combination. This is both the shock tower brace, which is this part. This is all CT Raceworx stuff. These two arms come down. This is the bottom. This is the front double shear, bulkhead kit, whatever you want to call it. Rear is fairly simple. You're going to need new radius rods. Got some beautiful radius rods there. Love that CT Raceworx detail. I chose to go with a nice CT Raceworx matching rear support. I went with high lifter, just solid arms above that. We're gonna use this gusset kit. So these guys will end up being on the back side of, wherever they fit, like here, and there's 3 of those plates. It's a CT Raceworx product. There's a number of guys that make these behind here. So in factory form, you have these 2 bolts that just stick out. You slide everything on them. They are kind of cheesy. They look kind of like that. You can see that that's some pretty thin metal, and you replace it with this nice, much heavier gauge metal. So that's behind there. So I've done 2 of the 3. Bottom one's a hard one. Done 2 of the 3. Gonna put this one in, and it allows you to remove 1 bolt at a time, take off 1 radius rod at a time. Makes things a lot easier. So just another thing to strengthen this part. This part of the Can-Am is prone to these bolts starting to wear these holes out, and they'll get oblong, and you'll have symptoms like your tire won't be straight, or you'll hear a bunch of rattling as you're driving around, as these things rack back and forth. So this product here will solve that. Here it is, and this is essentially how it is on the car. Now, your front bulkhead actually bolts onto these 4 bolts. I'll show that in a second. And you see back here, same thing. You got the bolt. I think I can get it better from this side. So on the back side, once again, this is a thicker plate at least, but there's your little wobbly bolt. Here's your bolt in the front, wobbling around. And so they're all that way. Nothing is double sheared. So you're going, oh, okay, what does that all mean? I'll show you shortly. The other thing I wanted to say is, here's my winch. And you notice it's got these 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts. And those bolts, actually you take these nuts off, here, 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 and here, and that bolts on there. Now, you have to visualize this. You're driving your car, you've got your winch or your front bulkhead, and it's kind of hanging down here. And if you remember from earlier in the video, how close this gets to the ground, especially out here in the front. So you bottom out, you hit this. Imagine the torque that that's putting on this whole front bulkhead when you bottom out that front and you hit it up and it's torquing on these bolts, because really that is just being held on by the ends of these 4 bolts. And that's not good. And so when you're winching, if you have a winch on your car, you're actually winching. Everything you're pulling is pulling on these 4 bolts as well, which I don't think is all that super structurally sound way to be winching. So careful when you're winching. You'll see what ties it all together is this piece. And you'll notice that this piece, when it gets bolted up into there, has all this metal bracketry holding the back and the front together and puts all those bolts in double shear. And that's really where you get most of your strength gain on that front bulkhead. There's a bunch of other places they reinforce, but that's sort of the general idea. A quick shot of how low your car gets and what happens. There it is. That's where it bottoms out, hits on the bottom. When it does, all that torque goes into those 4 bolts and into your chassis and causes things to break. Of course, I also need to show that this is essentially how this is on the car. So this is what's holding your shock on. You've got this bolt that goes through here, and it's constantly getting, every time your shock hits, it's going up and down. This is just bolted to a piece of plastic. So what we're going to do with the new kit is we're going to tie all the, take this bracket, replace it with a bracket. There's metal rods that come down and attach it here and here, and a big plate there. And you're going to see that we significantly strengthen this area from here to here. Put double shear in here, all kinds of plates in there, and you'll get to see sort of the difference. But I thought I would show, just sort of mocked up so you could see. Now look at this beautiful stuff here. So here we have, once again, tied in this brace here. I mean, it really forms almost like a, it's bolted on. Okay, let's get to the camera right. It's all bolted on here, comes up, over, and braces, and the shock is down in double shear. This is connected to here, reinforced through here. This piece of the shock tower is no longer going to be under nearly the kind of stress it was before, and it's not going to crack and break off and ruin your frame. So that's really cool. The other piece I wanted to do, and I needed to show this while I still had it apart, because it really shows how this bulkhead kit by CT Raceworx ties everything together. So you have this plate here. Now it used to be that the upper arm was mounted right here, and it was just a bolt sticking out. This bolt was just sticking out here and it could snap off, whatever. Now you have this piece bolted to the frame, bolted here, bolted to this piece, which wraps around behind. Let's see if we can get in there and see. And you can see this plate back here. So this plate reinforces here and is tied directly into this front plate, which is now double shear on the bottom, double shear here. That's where your top arm mounts, double shear there. And you have all this metal holding this piece together. It also helps you hold your winch on. So now these 4 bolts that used to just be sort of dangling out there are now all in double shear with that giant piece of metal tied in back behind here, tied all the way back into there. You have this tied up into there. Overall, you have a tremendous gain in strength. I mean, you don't have to be an engineer to figure out that that's way better. So kudos to CT Raceworx. This is not for the ill-equipped mechanic. If you don't have a good set of tools and a good set of stuff, and don't attempt something like this. Also, that everything on here went together perfectly. CT Raceworx stuff. Nothing had to be ground, nothing had to be clearanced, nothing had to be drilled. Everything just fit perfectly. So It's what you get when you buy quality parts. So I'll move on to the back. Pretty happy with the way this turned out, and certainly, you know, am excited to go out and have Susan drive this bad boy around. After about 800 miles on this car with the bulletproofing done, the beautiful CT Raceworx stuff, you know, obviously we replaced the A-arms in the front and the trailing arms in the rear and the axle shafts, and did some other things. There's another video that really details that. That's where we converted this car from a 64-inch car to a 72. Back here on the back, you know, there are the radius rods. Just also see some Summers Brothers axle shafts there. The CT Raceworx, the radius rod plate, and then behind it on the back side you'll see where we put the CT Raceworx race plates. Over here on the axles on this middle rod, not going to see a lot of it, but there's a toe link support kit by Shock Therapy that we put on there. You can see highlighting because we used a lot of CT Raceworx stuff, and I will say that these upper radius rods here were made by High Lifter, and I went with them for a reason. I'm not a terribly big fan of the adjustable style radius rods. I think, you know, if you're one of those guys that's like, oh my god, my tire's bent, I think you'll notice, you know, we've put a fair amount of miles on this car. You know, if you build it right, your stuff is going to be straight. And if it's not straight and you're using the right length radius rods, something else is wrong. Your hub is bent, your trailing arm is bent, something else is wrong. So I'm kind of a fan of the just radius rods made to the correct length. And so those are sort of our bulletproofing basics that we're going to go through.